All right, welcome to Live, Lead, and In Between, a podcast for leaders who want to be better at leading in life and everywhere in between. My name is Travis Jones, and I'm the host for this podcast. And we're gonna play catch up real quick because it has literally been probably, 2 months or a month and a half since I've released a podcast. And even then, I was like, it'd been a hot minute because, school starting and how it messed with my schedule and all that stuff. Well, I had the best intentions of releasing a podcast at the beginning of the month. And then I got sick. I started feeling better, and something happened to cause a relapse. So I got sick again, wound up in the ER for a hot minute, and then finally got things going in the right direction and better. And then right after that, I had jury duty. And you know how super fun that can be. And here, I'm not saying that you shouldn't do jury duty. Matter of fact, I am pro jury duty. But like when you're playing catch up from being out already, it's a tough thing. So it has been a little bit. So I had teased on Patreon. And by the way, if you're not a member, I do put teasers out there and other content there in Patreon. You can find the link in the show notes for that or how to search for it. But I put a teaser out saying that something I'd been working on was a topic called stall tactics. Now let me, excuse me, let me kind of tell you where the topic actually showed up in my brain. Well, actually, first off, I'm recording in a new location. I'm actually recording from my work office because I've got a hot minute to do so, but so it looks a little bit different than my background that I normally am, but it's where I'm at. It's what I got the materials to do it with. But anyway, where this topic came from, where it came from, I always like to talk a little bit about that. And for me, the topic of stall tactic, it has a lot to do with not just like stalling someone for time. The topic came up. I was driving down the road and I looked over and I shouldn't say I was driving down the road. I was parked on the road. And traffic was backed up, and I look over when we finally get to the point, because there's nothing worse than being sitting in traffic and being unaware of why you're sitting in traffic, right? And so by the time you get there, you're expecting an accident or something like that. And when I got up to it, it was simply just a car that was stalled. Lights are flashing, hood's up, something's up with the car, it stalled. And it got me thinking about stalling a little bit. And then that led to me thinking about the goals and things that I've set as a leader, as a husband, for my family and for the ministry that I serve in. And I got to thinking about that kind of stuff. And it occurred to me that a lot of times I will stall when it comes to my own personal growth or the goals I've set. And it really troubled me a little bit when I was thinking about that. So the question is, why do we stall our own growth? And I think on Patreon, I teased a little bit, excuse me. There's the word stall, right? S-T-A-L-L, which means to buy for time, that kind of thing. And then there's another word, stall. It's kind of it's a German word, S-T-A-H-L. And it has a different meaning, and it means to armor oneself or to put armor on. And so both of those words to me, when I was doing a little bit of research on that, kind of spoke to the why we stall our own personal growth. And kind of what I was able to come up with based off my own experience with that thus far is basically 3 reasons that we do that. And so I kind of want to talk a little bit about that, but I also want to talk about the fact and some personal goals that I've had and that I've stalled on and why and things like that. And you've actually heard me mention them in this podcast. So at the beginning of the year, I had this brilliant idea. I went for a trail walk. I walked the trail before I run it. And it was the week of the New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. And I had an idea. I was like, I'm going to record myself stating my goals for the year, where I wanted to be on certain things and things like that. And I've still got the recording. And one of them was I want to be in triathlon shape. Like I've never been able to be, and I've been in good shape before. I've ran road races and things like that. But I've never been in the kind of shape that I really, really wanted to be in physically. So I decided, I want to be in triathlon shape. So recorded myself saying that. And so I would have physical evidence of I actually said it, that it wasn't a thought or that I forgot about it. And I proceeded to kind of set out, right? I'm going to do this. Not sure how. I don't want to run a triathlon per se, but I want to be in that kind of shape. And so as I moved through the year, I started making moves in that direction, one of which I got a fitness watch that would help me do that. I started running more frequently. I started listening to the coach on the watch and all the biometrics that it was telling me what to do and what not to do. And here we are in October, and there's only a couple months left of the year, and I can, without a shadow of a doubt, tell you that I am not in triathlon shape. I mean, I'm not. I'm not. I had stalled out some of my growth when it came to running and endurance and things like that, and I couldn't figure out why. And then I got smacked with a little bit being sick and haven't been able to run in like a month, which is driving me crazy. By the way, it's the worst thing in the world. By the way, you drive down the road and you'll see people running, and you're like, if you're a runner, you're like, first you're like, all right, and then the second you're like, I wish I was running right now. Like, so, and I know some of you are listening to this thinking that is the worst possible thing. I'm not running unless a bear's chasing me. Well, I'm not like that. When I run, I'll just say I feel his pleasure when I run. It's just good. So anyway, I haven't been able to do that in a month, but here I am staring at November, December coming up and thinking, well, I'm not going to meet that goal. And it started to bother me a lot. I was like, well, here we have another year where I'm not going to meet a goal that I set. So why is that? Why? And I got to thinking, well, I've wound up stalling my own growth when it comes to those areas. So again, I came up with 3 reasons why. These are kind of the reasons internally with me that I've kind of figured out. The first one is going to sound like an excuse. I promise you it's not. But the first one is when we set a goal for ourselves or personal growth in whatever it is we're doing, we get super, super excited about it, and we set it in an unrealistic fashion. For me, unless something were to drastically change in my life and in my work schedule and things like that, me getting into triathlon shape, probably not going to, it's going to take longer than a year, honestly, because at most right now, I'm only able to squeeze out like running once a week. And even that, I'm running for about an hour or so. But to really get in that kind of shape, you're going to have to be doing a lot more than that. And with my work schedule, my wife's work schedule, having 2 toddlers and a 14-year-old at home, my life did not lend itself. And now you may be thinking, Travis, you can change priorities and things like that. Well, yes, I could, but anytime I'm taking more time for this, I'm taking time from somewhere else because I only have a limited amount. And the things I can't take time from, I can't take time from. And so the goal that I set, and I'm using this triathlon goal as an example, but the goal that I set, I had unrealistic expectations with the goal. Now, it would literally probably take me a year and a half or let's say 2 years, 2.5 years, I would say, at the current rate of schedule and my running to really build up to where I would be in kind of a triathlon shape, be able to do those things. And that's even adding on biking and maybe swimming and things like that. So the first thing I've been able to discover is I've been unrealistic with myself, my schedule, and those things. Now, if I apply those things out to other goals in ministry and things like that. This year was the first year I've ever actually put together a 10-week study from scratch. And it was a daunting task. But if I apply that same thing, I actually was realistic about that and how long it was going to take. And it took time to do that. And I actually was able to accomplish that goal, but it took a lot more than I thought it was, even though I was realistic about it. But this particular goal I was unrealistic about. So why do we stall our own growth? Well, number one, we're unrealistic about the growth and the goal we have set. We're unrealistic with regard to our lives and things that are going on in our lives, and we don't actually take time to count the cost before we set the goal, right? And I probably would gather and guess that if you are listening to this and you're listening to it right now, that there's probably some goals in your life that you have set that haven't been achieved yet, or some area of growth in your life that you've wanted to see happen that you haven't achieved yet. Probably the number one reason is you've been unrealistic about what it's actually going to take to achieve those goals. And in that, you've not counted the cost of what it's going to cost you, both personally and those around you, to actually meet that goal, whether it's a good goal or a bad goal. And there also are such things as having a good goal and then having a God goal as well. And, we could talk a little bit about that. But the first one is unrealistic expectations, right? And that's what I came up with. The second one, it's the uncomfortable one to talk about when it comes to goals and personal growth, but it's that we're scared. It's that we are actually scared because if we do set the goal correctly and we do count the cost, we realize what it's going to cost to get there is scary because it's going to take more out of us than we realize. When it came to the class that I was talking about that I put together this year. Now I've facilitated classes, all that fun stuff, even taking time to write a book, and kind of know what that's about. But this was the first time I actually took a subject matter, and the subject matter was the Holy Spirit, and actually built a class around that subject matter that was 10 weeks long. And each one of the classes was an hour and a half. So there was content and guides that go with it. And I had to create this thing from scratch. And honestly, when I was setting the goal to do it, I was terrified. I was terrified that I was not going to be able to do it. But I just made myself do it, right? But I was realistic about the goals with that. I just made myself do it. And I came to realize in the middle of that I was right to be terrified, because it took so much out of me. And I don't mean in a bad way. It just consumed everything I was doing, because like I'm delivering an hour and a half's worth of content, teaching content every single week. And I'm the type of person that I can't build out a whole 10-week thing. I have to do the first week. Okay, we landed here. This is where the next week goes. So it took a lot, and I was right to be scared. So in this instant, it actually worked out. But a lot of times, the reason that we stall our own growth is because we're afraid of what it's going to cost us to get there. We do count the cost. We look at it. So we begin to put armor around ourselves and go, I don't think I want to hit that. I don't think I want to do that, right? Think of your average person that says, I want to get a six-pack. Well, it takes effort to get a six-pack. You know, there are a couple people in the world that I know that are blessed genetically just by having a six-pack. They woke up in the morning, six-pack, abs. The rest of us in the world, it takes hard work. And we're a lot of times scared of the hard work it's going to take. So you compound an unrealistic expectation with kind of counting the cost and then realizing this is going to take a lot, and you get scared. So now you have unrealistic expectations and then being scared at the same time. Now, the third reason that I've landed on for why we stall our growth, why we put up barriers to actually making it happen, is that we don't understand why it is we're doing what we're doing. We don't understand the why. We don't understand the why. Why do I want to be in triathlon shape? Is it just so I can have the glamour muscles, which I don't really have? Yeah. Or is it that I want other people to see me a certain way? Like, why? Why do I want this? Because the why is super important. And if you don't understand the why, all the rest of it doesn't matter. So if you don't have a good, compelling reason and understand why you want to do certain things, then you're not going to put the effort. You're going to set unrealistic goals. You're going to be scared when you find out what it's going to take to get there. So going back to my triathlon shape, unrealistic expectations, scared of taking time away from family members and things like that and work and stuff to be able to make it happen, because I didn't see how I could. I honestly don't yet. And then why? I never actually answered the question for myself. Why do I want to be in triathlon shape? And when I think about it now, the only answer I come up with is I've just always wanted to be, right? It's just something I've always wanted to do. But I don't know that that's as a compelling reason to do it as another reason might be, right? So just wanting to always be, that's something I've always wanted. I don't know that that's compelling enough, right? I don't know that that's a great why. I just want to do it. Okay, great. Well, what happens when I'm in triathlon shape? Do I run a triathlon? Do I want to be able to accomplish a triathlon? Like, you see what I'm saying there? So why do we stall our growth? Those are the three reasons that I came up with based off my own personal experience with that. I think you can apply those across the board to any goal, anything like that. There's risk involved to all this stuff, and sometimes we look at things unrealistically, get scared about what we see, and then we just don't even understand why we're doing it in the first place. So I think we'll stop it right there. But if this has been helpful to you, please share it. Share it with someone else. Subscribe to the podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube or Spotify or listening audio. That's also awesome. I'd love for you to do that. I have a Patreon as well where you can become a member. It's actually free just to get the stuff. If you want to support the channel, that's great. I'd appreciate that. It'd help us. I always say us, like it's plural. Help me to actually push this a little further. Yeah. So those are the main things, the like, subscribe, and all that stuff. But I'm going to do my best in the month of November coming up to actually get back on track with the content, things like that. And provided nothing else comes my way that tries to knock me off my horse. So with that said, this has been Live, Lead, and In Between, and I would encourage you to lead well in every area that you have the honor of leading in. And don't stall your personal growth.